the January 16th, 2025 Design Review Committee meeting. This is a 9-person committee whose primary function is to perform design review for projects located in one of the city's 3 designated design review areas: downtown, the riverfront, and the new hotel overlay zoning districts. This is a mandatory review, voluntary compliance process with one exception for hotels seeking to skip council review. Hotels taking advantage of this incentive must receive a positive recommendation from the committee. All committee members and staff are participating in person. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website, and also linked on the committee page. You can also watch the meeting on the city's YouTube channel, either live or recorded. I will now take roll call. Jeremy Goldstein. Here. Catherine Ankaya. Here. Stephen Lee Johnson. Here. Thomas McLaughlin is absent. Michael McDonough. Here. Brian Moffitt.
Here.
Robin Rains is absent. Ricardo Sejo.
Here.
And we do have quorum. And the first order of business is to approve the minutes from the September 19th, 2024 meeting.
I did read them, and I make a motion that they be approved.
Second. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. The motion passes. And the new business is a formal design review. First item, 156 Sweeten Creek Road.
Good afternoon, committee members. Will Pompquist with Planning and Urban Design. I'll be pinch hitting for Clay Mitchell today. Clay is assisting with flood permit recovery efforts. So he and some other staff from the city are on a team to assist with kind of ambassador and stewarding some of those applications. So he'll be doing a little less project review over the next few months, but he did do the initial review of this application and the staff report for this revision. So this is a level 2 hotel project known as Holiday Inn Express at 156 Sweeten Creek Road. This is coming back to you. It was reviewed, I think, by you all back in either June or April of last year, which I know it feels like a long time ago for everybody. So we'll kind of go back through some of the details of the site and the project itself. So you can see here is a map of the location of the project on Sweeten Creek Road, south of I-40. It's currently vacant, zoned commercial industrial. It is in the hotel overlay for small and large hotels, has frontage on Sweeten Creek Road where its entrance is proposed, across from West Chapel Road. Here's another view of the site. The site itself is about 2.5 acres. You can see the location there on Sweeten Creek, and there's a elevated railroad bed to the east. So you'll see on the plans that a lot of the site is encumbered with the railroad right-of-way. All right, so this is the proposed site plan for the new hotel. You can see Sweeten Creek on the left side of the page, which is west. The hotel itself is proposed along the north side of the property with the parking area to the south. And then this is that 50-foot railroad right-of-way, as mentioned, that's at the rear of the site. Proposed is a 98-room hotel with associated uses. It's a 4-story building with indoor amenities, outdoor patio area. The overall GFA is about 60,000 square feet. Parking is shown meets the minimum required and is about 101 total spaces. Bicycle parking is shown at the pedestrian entryway from the sidewalk along Sweeten Creek Road. Along the front of the site, there are some easements. So we have I believe a stormwater easement and a sewer easement along the front of the site that are shown in those red and green colors. The main entrance to the hotel lobby faces the parking lot. There is a sidewalk proposed along Sweeten Creek Road, a sidewalk along the parking area, and then a sidewalk that connects the kind of internal sidewalk to the public sidewalk, and that's a bit of a grade change, so those would be steps down to the sidewalk along the road. The landscaping plan is shown here. It's shown to be compliant with UDO requirements. There are a number of different types of landscaping required, including street trees along Sweeten Creek, building impact screening, vehicle use area, and street buffer for the parking lot landscaping. Retaining wall landscaping is shown as well. There's a technical note here that the landscaping for the retaining walls is kind of above and beyond, since some of the walls are not tall enough to require landscaping. But if they were to be removed, like along the north side of the site, Clay has noted that it'd be preferable to have maybe some of the building impact landscaping there to help buffer the site a bit. The tree canopy preservation or protection compliance is still outstanding, but that's a technical requirement that the applicant's been working with the city's urban forester on. Here's a better view of that sidewalk as required along Sweeten Creek Road, complying with the NCDOT restrictions. They are particular about the right-of-way, so there are applicants working with the NCDOT for approval of that aspect of the site. Here are some standard floor plans for the hotel. Ground floor shown below. You can see the main entrance area in the center. There's a pool on the right here. The upper floors have basically this layout for the other 3 stories above. The pool area is only a 2-story high area, kind of an atrium space. There's a proposed patio adjacent to the pool, just to the south. As you can see here, has extensive seating, and it qualifies as the recreational open space to meet the open space requirements for the project as well. So in terms of the design guidelines, this is based on the hotel design guidelines for areas outside the CBD or riverfront. Staff has analyzed the project in relation to those guidelines and finds that the project is largely compliant with them. This includes elements such as parking, access points, guest drop-off areas, and height, orientation, placement of the building, entrances to the building, and then fenestration requirements as well. So this is the entry. This was revised to show the enhanced distinction and connectivity to the street and pedestrian facilities. So this is the elevation that faces Sweeten Creek Road. You can see the entryway in the center. So there's basically an entrance off that elevation and off of the parking lot area around the corner as well. This graphic of the elevations demonstrate that the project is compliant with the ground floor elevation opening requirement of 50%, and then the upper story requirements of 20% for windows and other openings. Some noted guidelines that will require further consideration by the committee regards the materials of the proposal. This kind of rendering shows some of those variations of materials proposed. One of the guidelines states building materials should be of a high quality and reflect the historic building materials of character-defining structures in the same area. And then also regarding architecture, that the design should be well thought out and adapted to the site, and prototypical designs should be discouraged. This chart shows the proposed materials. You can see a combination of EIFS, as well as tile, stone tile, and paint. And then these elevations show a little bit better in color the proposed materials for the Sweeten Creek elevation on the bottom, and then the parking lot facade on the top. Also see the proposed signage elements as well. And then the other 2 elevations, the north elevation on the top, so the opposite side from the parking lot, and then the rear elevation on the bottom. And then these are just some perspective renderings showing views of the proposed project. You can see a couple views from Sweeten Creek, looking from the north and from the south, as well as from the parking lot. And then some aerial views of the project site as well that actually give a pretty good grounding of the layout and orientation of the building and parking areas and access. So overall, staff's specific concerns with the original submission have been addressed. Find that the design reflects a balance between the corporate branding of the product itself and the area's architecture. Following any discussions on items raised by staff, such as the materials and architectural style, staff recommends approval based on the compliance of the project with the hotel design guidelines. And there's a template, motion template provided as well. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. We also have the applicant team with us today that we can have address any questions or provide any additional information as they see fit.
Any questions? Any questions for Will? I'm gonna ask the applicant to step up.
Sure. Does anyone from the applicant team want to address any comments or questions from the committee? Please introduce yourself.
I'm Marvin Mercer, Mercer Design Group. I'm the civil engineer for the project. And we have today, we have the architect here, Oswaldo. We have Jay Shaw and his father, Rakeen Shaw. I'm sorry, I don't know your name, sir. And then we also have our grading contractor here just so he can hear what you guys are saying. And so the only thing that we'll put in was just 96 rooms, not 98 rooms.
Okay.
That's the only, everything was great.
So, glad to hear. I just
So-
put myself in this morning.
Right.
The meeting.
A meeting room
conference.
above. Oh, yeah, okay. That's what's okay.
The civil plans here.
Okay.
You can
Just
flip
touch
through.
screen?
Yeah,
Okay.
touch screen, and then the architectural plans
Sweet.
should be maybe vice versa. But yeah, Michelle, there.
And maybe stay up here and do my IT for me. Okay. And in interest of time and the fact that you've heard everything, so I'll just take questions if it's okay, unless you want me to present anything at all.
No,
So-
that's great.
One question about the submittal. The corner on the front corner facing Sweeten Creek.
Is that I'm sorry, the north or south corner, when you say front corner?
The one facing the parking lot and Sweeten Creek.
Okay,
That would be the southwest corner.
okay.
It looked like it's gone through an evolution there, through part of the process, and to create more fenestration facing Sweeten Creek Road. And so there were, apparently, is that correct? Okay.
If you're going to speak, you need to come up to the microphone, state your name.
Sorry, my name is Oswaldo Zuluaga. I'm with Lowe's Architects, and I'm the project manager. We did not meet the fenestration requirements at the beginning. That was pointed out, and we added the windows.
Okay, so it looked like originally on that southwest corner, there was a mechanical room and electrical room.
Yes.
It looks like it's still labeled that way. What happens in those
Well,
spaces?
that was not mechanical and electrical originally. That was another guest room. The electrical and mechanical was towards the east, beside closer to the pool. We move it so we can have easier access for the transformer and utilities to that corner.
The plan that I'm looking at, if you were to zoom in,
Yes.
says electrical.
Yes, that's just current. That is, as of right now, that's what it is. Our first submittal to TRC, it was located somewhere else.
Okay, so right on the corner is an
Yes.
electrical room.
Yes,
And then next to that, before you get to the stairwell, is a mechanical room?
yes,
Okay, and you've added glass to those rooms to
Yes.
meet the fenestration? So you have glass looking into mechanical
no,
closet?
that will have to be spandrel. Most likely, we'll have to have a wall in front because we're gonna have to put electrical panels there. so you won't really see in.
So that makes sense. So when we look at the design guidelines that are encouraging activation of a corner facing the street, they've addressed the comments by changing from an opaque material to a translucent material, which is not really translucent, and it doesn't want to be because it's looking into the mechanical closet. So
But it is, it's just looking at a wall instead of somebody's unmade bed. Aren't they building a wall in front of the window?
well, he said spandrel glass, which,
Well,
so that's the question, like,
The guideline says fenestration, well, I just, blank wall, you're talking about 17 on the guidelines. Facades visible from a public way should avoid the use of blank or uninterrupted walls. Should be punctuated with fenestration, relief, or a change in materials, etc.
so we're okay that it doesn't
well,
have to be transparent.
Yeah, I mean, this is different than like when we, like if this was downtown River Arch, we do require, I don't have the guideline at my fingertips, but we do require like activation, as you said. I don't think the hotel guidelines require activation.
No specific, like, other use requirements or programming, more about the fenestration.
It's about, and so it just, but this particular one is about the blank wall, which is what I think we responded to last time.
And then the brow roof coming out over to further the illusion that something important is happening there. And the brow covering the front door, well, a door that is, again, an allusion to being a front door. So I understand
That's a
all-
real door.
Yeah, but no one's ever going to use it, right? Like, you'd have to have your room key, it'll be locked.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so, and this isn't about you, this is just about.
Yeah, no
like,
worries.
the guidelines and like,
Yeah.
do we want to see more beyond a literal interpretation of the guidelines? And then in the stairwell, you've also added two big pairs of windows.
Yes.
And those will be clear glass?
No.
Or spandrel glass as well?
Most likely it's gonna be expanded glass, some sort of, it won't be translucent, but
So we've added fenestration on Sweet Creek Road to give the illusion that the building is trying to address the street, but you can't really see into any of those spaces, other than the rooms above. So,
the reality is, depending how the sun hits, that glass is never gonna be clear glass. It's gonna have a tint to it to meet the energy code. So you wouldn't be able to see in anyways if that was actual clear glass, but that's for you guys to discuss, I guess.
So I'm not clear what's happening on the side where the existing retaining wall is. In the renderings, it looks like there's it looks like it's either the part of the building or it's a new retaining wall up against that, the adjacent parcel, not up against the parking on the other side of the building. In the sections, it looks like the building's just sitting there and there's nothing on that side. Can you tell me how do we match up grades? In the rendering, it looks like a site built.
So, yeah, go back to, so here's your site plan here, okay. And so if you look at the, I don't think it shows here.
Like on C2, it looks, you've got a retaining wall in the back and it kind of dives into the building.
Okay, so let's go to M1 right here. This is the original site, okay?
Yes, sir.
So a little bit of backstory history. This was one of the last hotels that was approved. This site was one of the last hotels approved before the moratorium years ago, right?
Right.
And so, actually, Austin here, Austin Patton, that site was approved. The hotel was approved, all the TOC, everything, all the permits, and they graded the site and they built this retaining wall that you see on the screen now, okay, which is existing today. Okay. So, I'm not exactly sure what happened, but that project stopped during grading and right around the time the retaining wall was finished. and it has sat here for years since. They sold they being their previous owners, and we did the site plan for that at the time. They sold the site to the now current owners, and they've come back. Well, so what you've got now is a retaining wall that was never designed to support a building, right? So that retaining wall is coming completely out.
Right.
Austin's going to take it down. We're going to try to reuse as much as we can in the back. That's the retaining wall we see now, which you see as you face it, the far right of the screen. So the foundation of the building, though, is going to have anywhere from a couple of feet up to the finished floor, all the way up to, say, 10 or 12 feet to take up the grade break from the retaining wall. So now you have a building, if you look at your architectural plans.
The sections aren't showing it, and the
Yeah, there was
elevations really aren't showing it.
there was
It's-
one of
it's in
the-
3D rendering.
Yeah,
and
there
it
was,
looks like a
I thought
different
there was a
thing.
rendering at some point, and I could be wrong in the original presentation. But basically, if you're looking at the building from Sweeten Creek, you've got your finished floor, then you're going to have a tall foundation wall up to your first floor, and then your building above. And then the question is what that retaining, if you will, foundation is going to look like. It's going to have the same block work, same stone look or whatever. I think Oswaldo can answer that better than I can, but it will be a retaining foundation.
I mean, some of the grades I'm seeing, you got 2089 and a half is the finished floor, and then I'm seeing things like 2071 as adjacent, so.
Yeah, you're going to be 10, 12 feet.
Yeah,
So
a
it's
little
gonna
more than
sit
that.
on a plinth
It's
of
gonna
some
sit on
sort.
Right, but I don't know what that, it's not in the architectural, and I don't really know what that material is. It's probably, what is that? Because it's gonna be pretty,
Right, so the
Significant.
question, you're talking about from the finished floor down to the
Yeah.
ground.
Yes,
what
sir.
that-
What is it?
Oswaldo will have to answer that.
We have not selected that material yet. The intent is to make it look like stone. It's not gonna be real stone, but we're gonna dress it up so it looks like stone. It's a design intent. We don't want a blank gray wall there.
so it's a different stone than you've got elsewhere on the building?
It's gonna be a different stone, yes.
Okay. So we'll normally, like on a retaining wall that's part of a building foundation like that, we don't normally consider that as a retaining wall.
I'd have to check.
We haven't in the past,
Okay.
as far as like, requiring the landscaping and things like that.
Right.
It's part of the building,
Right.
is normally, I think, what we've done in the past. So it would be considered part of the building.
Can you scroll down to the rendering, the 3D rendering, keep on going down? That's
I will.
looking at that corner?
I will, just a second. I do want to point out that we kind of thought this may become in this conversation because there's a wall there now, not. So we did try to put some plantings along there to kind of break that up. But we knew that the conversation was going to come as what is going to, it's not going to be a plain concrete wall. The city doesn't want that. I live here, I don't want that. I don't think the owners want that either for their building.
Well,
And so
and
scroll to which one? I'm sorry, Mr.
Yeah,
Ryan?
go ahead.
The corner rendering, keep on going down, there's a 3D rendering looking.
This is, no, this is site plan, so you're
Oh, yeah,
talking
yeah,
about this
video
cat right here, so. I don't hear so well. so I'm sorry.
A10?
Just keep scrolling, you'll
Okay.
get there.
You do it.
Well, it's gonna be visible from Sweeten Creek as well as from the adjacent parcel. And there's also a couple of details, like where the building comes down to it. Right now, it looks like it's standing proud of the building, and then you've got that blue element that kind of floats. What happens when it hits that new element? What is the material? I think that's kind of, it's a big piece and
Keep
it
going.
feels unresolved.
Keep going.
Keep
There's
going
one-
though,
there's
keep
one-
going. There's a
Right there.
close-up.
Right there,
Bottom
bottom.
There it
left.
is,
That's
yeah.
what I was thinking.
Yeah, bottom corner.
There you go.
Well, at first I was looking at it and thinking that if it was away from the building and you had access to it, then it was gonna need a fence or something, but I think if I understand what you're doing, it's just barely proud of the building. The building facade comes down. Again, it's not shown on the sections. I think it's a major,
There's like 5 feet from the retaining wall to the building.
oh, it's 5 feet.
Yeah, it's
So
not
you
on the
can
same,
walk.
it's not on the same plane. But there's gonna be landscaping there, we're not walking, we don't have a sidewalk going around it.
Well,
Is that what you're
Even if
showing?
you've got landscaping or something there, I'm pretty sure if it's 5 feet from the building, it's not part of the building, now it's a, it's a,
It doesn't sit on top.
The retaining wall's gone, the foundation's going to be, isn't the foundation of the, am I misunderstanding? You're looking at the retaining wall in the building here, it's all, it's like this.
Well,
have
the
to have a
existing
fence.
is
You're talking about this?
like 5 feet from the existing retaining.
You're
wall.
saying
So,
it's
okay,
5 feet.
I'm sorry, there's a little bit of, so the existing retaining wall
Goes
met the
away.
is going away, right?
Yes, sir.
So
Got
the
that part.
building has moved over a few feet.
Understand that.
Okay, but that wall is no longer there. So the foundation that you see here, that it may be a little bit proud as you're saying that's true, but it is that is the foundation for the building.
Okay.
Not a retaining wall and then the building. So then the question becomes, I believe, is what that facade's going to be on that retaining portion, but it is not a retaining wall and a building. That retaining wall that's out there is well built and I think well designed. But was never designed to hold up a 3 or
Okay.
4-story
So,
building.
in
on top
looking
of
at
it.
this though, when the building comes down, in between the top of that foundation structure, is there 5 feet?
Yeah,
So
so
could a
that-
person be walking back and forth there is the question?
No, so they're not going out and walking on that side of the building. That face is 10, 12 feet from the property line, and that's where the plantings come in. They're not coming out that side of the building, that
Window
northern side of the building.
cleaning,
and walking
siding
around.
repair, if you have people walking there and there's a 12-foot drop.
You gotta
I guess
have
that's
a
where
fence.
Brian's getting at, you gotta have a
Right.
fence, or else they're gonna
There's
fall.
there's no path over here, there's nobody walking.
The building wall comes all the way down and it keeps going, or you're gonna have a step, which is it?
Is this rendering accurate?
Well, when we did this, we hadn't addressed the retaining wall. This was done prior, knowing that we needed to change the retaining wall. So that's existing retaining wall as it is now, and the building is set back about 5 feet from that existing retaining wall. Now, on the new design that we're not there yet, if we're gonna go straight down for the retaining wall itself, still the site is gonna be pushed out because that's where we have all the planting.
Correct, but it's 12 feet.
So the retaining wall needs to stay where it is.
I think the question is, can somebody come out the north side of the building and
No.
walk around?
You
Right.
cannot do that.
Can
Right,
we
that's-
see it on the
that's-
plan? I mean, the rendering's fine, but I'd like to see the plan that shows
Where
what's
that-
happening here.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's go back to this plan here.
that's a good question, thanks.
So this is, I believe, what you're trying to
It's not here.
ascertain. So let's go here. This is the existing retaining wall here,
It's not.
okay? Now, if I take that existing retaining wall, can y'all see that on the screen? Because I'm not looking up. This is the structure with the retaining wall removed, and now the structure is taking the place. And so
Yeah, there is no, you can't, it doesn't look like there's 5 feet.
there isn't. And so the landscaping, that wall of the foundation, and obviously I can't point here, I don't think I can, unless I have IT help.
Cursor.
I don't know. That's a
Yeah.
good
So
idea.
what
So-
was that grade there?
So, right here, so this wall that you see here is the floor of the building, and that landscaping is, in this case, is probably 6 or 8 feet below the finished floor of the building. Right. So we're just replacing retaining wall with a retaining foundation.
Right, I think he's just worried about, there's, even if you couldn't walk there from the front, but if someone could put a ladder up there and start walking along there, I'm sure.
If you've got more than, you know.
To my understanding,
6
there's no access out of, oh crap, I messed up, sorry. To my understanding, there's no access out of here from the previous conversations we've had and previous meetings we've had. Initially, they wanted to keep the retaining wall there, but it's just not designed to have that much load above it. I mean, we'd have had to drill down through all that grid to get down to the ground to do that. And I'm not the structural engineer on this particular building, but we've spoken with their structural, and he said the same thing, take the retaining wall down, so.
So you're gonna have some kind of cast-in-place wall,
It'll
whatever,
be a CIP
with,
wall, that's correct.
with stone or some facing on it.
The facing will be, I believe, probably, I think the idea was coming out of this meeting on the facing. But it will be a CIP wall that goes up to the.
Okay.
So that rendering represents where you
If you answer the question, can you speak into the mic? Can you speak into the mic when you respond so that the people online?
Sorry.
It's being recorded and people online.
Yeah, sorry, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, and again, I'm not the architect, but my understanding is that's a tall foundation, a cast-in-place wall up to the finish. And so then the question is, what's that face going to look like? It's not going to be a plain concrete face. The owners don't want that, we don't want that locally. The question is it going to be the same stone or some other look? And I believe that's what Oswaldo was getting to earlier, is what that look is going to be. Obviously, they have to complement each other, but at the same time, I'm not an architect or a very visual person, so that'll be something for you guys to kind of weigh in on, I think. So.
Well, I might suggest something like, this sounds very cynical, but we've seen a lot of hotels, and you all have. Every hotel starts to create these iconic little visual cues that as you're traveling, you make a connection, and Holiday Inn Express has their little visual cues. And from an architect standpoint, you're kind of throwing stuff at it, some fake stone here, some blue here, the logo. And already this building has kind of a lot of the tricks on it already. And so to add another little base thing that's a new thing, maybe when I review these projects, what we're trying to do is kind of not have this corporate box that lands in Asheville. We're trying to like connect the corporate box to our cultural landscape. So how do we make this building, how do we encourage you to make this building reflect Asheville? So you got your bag of tricks you come here with, stick them on the building and you land it here. But maybe on that corner, because it's pretty tall and it's like a very visible corner. Maybe that tower piece you've created, maybe it continues down. Like you got a couple of approaches here. You got a plinth that you sit on that wraps, and then you set the building on top of it, right? Or maybe you have a tall corner piece, and maybe you don't introduce, like you already have stone going on in that corner. You might want to pull up that. So like maybe go with it. Like what are you trying to do on the corner there?
That's kind of where I was going, is that right now it looks a little disjointed, and it does look like you built a concrete box and then instead of building on it, instead of making the foundation as part of it. I think it would be less expensive to pull that foundation wall back with where the foundations are shown currently on your turn down slab on the drawings, and you just take that all the way down to grade, and then you take that gray stone down at the corner, and then maybe you have, I don't know, maybe that gray stone then keeps going back. But right now it looks like it's against any crowd of the building. I don't think you really want to do that. I think you want to incorporate it into the building better. And like Mike was saying, basically, instead of introducing some third stone, I think you've got 3 different Coronado stone products selected. Pick one of those, probably the gray one, and use that for the base. That's
Well,
Yeah,
probably
maybe
can-
once you get away from the corner, just do painted concrete. Like at some point, you may not see from that vertical ephes strip back. Like, I don't know that you need to spend a lot of money.
No,
dressing up.
that's a really good idea. We can continue that tower or corner piece all the way down, accentuate it there and then change after that corner, because you don't want that heavy stone anyway all the way. That big wall is just going to be too much. It's going to be too busy. The pattern, it needs to be a larger format because it's going to be too busy. But we can do it in that corner, that tower. We can bring it all the way down and make it all look the same.
And as you look at that fenestration, I know you're just meeting kind of the guidelines, but if there's a way for that fenestration to be functional instead of just kind of stuck on there to check off another box here, like you have 2 fairly large pieces of glass in that stairwell, so maybe there's a way to stitch those in so that it brings light into the stairwell instead of a spandrel glass that, I don't know, again, try to activate that corner.
The thing is, you're going to see all the ugly stair, like we can probably dress it up a little bit, but you're not going to be looking at something pretty.
I understand, but just take it one step farther, like, how do you add interest to that corner, instead of just substituting spandrel glass or fake stone?
Okay.
I was going to suggest, following on the suggestion of bringing down the tower, you've got that gray band that frames the tower all the way around.
Yeah.
So you can bring, as that band comes down, instead of bringing it down to grade, you can turn it and send it backwards. And then everything you've done above with the white and the beige, that can happen on the face of that wall as well. So it looks like there's another band, like that horizontal band, that beige band, you can run another one below the first floor windows. So you're basically bringing that language down and almost like an apron over the concrete wall, the retaining wall. Does that make sense?
You're
You want a
continuing the
horizontal
vertical stripe
band.
all the way to the ground.
Well, not necessarily to the ground, but what I was saying is take the gray framing around the tower and then turn it horizontal so it becomes a datum that catches all of that white.
Yeah.
And then that, where you set that horizontal gray band that you've turned off of the tower, where you set that above grade, then that, that becomes a question of proportion. And what you do below, I think we talked about just making it, well, then it can just be painted concrete, right? Or not painted, but because you've eliminated so much of it that it won't matter. It's all gonna be hiding behind the landscaping anyway. So does that make sense?
You want a horizontal band from that gray band to the blue, John.
Right. Right. And
Okay,
then-
fair.
A horizontal datum.
Exactly. And then everything above it is a continuation of the facade of the building. So it's the white verticals coming down. You can have another tan band below the first floor windows, but everything is caught by that horizontal datum that you've brought down from the tower.
You're just taking your existing material palette and you're stretching it down.
And stretching it
a little bit
down.
And wrapping it
Yeah.
and connecting.
Just creating an apron that would cover, I don't know, maybe about half of what we're looking at on the retaining wall. Maybe about half of it gets covered with that, because that's all ethers, right?
Yes.
The white and the tan. So
No,
it's
the gray.
The gray and the white are ethers. I think the tan is
tan is
like
the
all
top.
the cornerstone
okay.
tile pieces. But, yeah.
I just have a question about, is the pool, it's indoor heated
Indoor,
with,
yes.
with your typical, is it storefront windows or are there, it looks like in the rendering. Are they storefront or are they the same type of windows that are on that little small?
Those are storefronts.
So it, and then, and you said the above is a
A
meeting
meeting room,
space.
yes.
And I'm assuming there's a better view that way than the other side of the building, which is why you put the pool on that side.
Well, we put the pool there just because we ran out of space.
Okay, I'm just curious because
That
it's on
pool,
the,
that pool technically was gonna go somewhere else. If we had more land, it would go where the retaining wall is, in the middle of the building. That's where the pool was, but we had to move it because the site was tight.
okay. The reason I ask is because it's not the best side for sun, right? It's the east.
Yeah, but it's indoors, so it's,
Yeah, so, but moving it to the other side might resolve some of the issues, but it doesn't have the greatest view, right? Because it has Cedar Creek. It would engage the corner, but maybe,
yeah, I think there were some site constraints on,
So there's constraints there that's the tallest, this corner where the pool is now is the tallest part of the foundation.
okay.
That site is falling back. You also have the railroad back there. So the closer this building gets to that railroad, the more impact there is at 2 o'clock. That train comes through apparently in the middle of the night. So
Gotcha.
trying to push as far as away, you're staying there, you're paying money to stay there, you don't want to hear a train all night, so. But having the pool there, if you put it on the other end, I see what you're saying is flip the pool to the other end of the building. This is the spot where now we're having to excavate to get the pool in on the other end. Also, on the other end is where all your utilities are. And that's one of the reasons why we moved the mechanical room from one end to the other, because your water, your sewer, everything is along Sweeten Creek. The only thing in the back is stormwater, which runs, if you will, just past the pool below the new retaining wall. Everything else is up by Sweeten Creek. Yeah, so.
So I get the short straw for the canopy, right? So I guess you're keying off of the one that you did in Flat Rock that was somewhat similar, where it's, pitched toward the building, doesn't really have the, yeah, that one has columns instead of the little bridge thing, and it's also not, so, how do I say this? The pitch and the size of the thing is out of scale with the rest of the building, and it's just I think it's actually distracting from some of your other moves, and I think it could be a little bit.
This is awesome underside material.
Yeah, I mean, translucent, I don't know if it's a floating canopy. Yeah, I'm not, how would you fix it? I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm just thinking that it's a very,
Maybe it's not showing correctly in the render, but I think in the render it just looks,
It's a cantilever portico share because we don't have space to bring columns down on the side. We lose parking spaces. So we took the columns out from the front and had to suspend it with rods. So it's cantilevered.
I get
it looks
that.
very heavy compared to the support. And, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna
Maybe
be
you
a lot
can scale
bigger.
it back a little bit.
I don't know how far it has to come out.
We could make it a little smaller.
I mean, the functional
But there's,
purpose.
there's some coordination that needs to happen with structural, because those columns on the back is helping carrying the weight. So you want those cables you can have it at any angle, but you want it at a perfect angle to support the weight. We can bring it shorter to the building to reduce that weight and make it look a little lighter if you guys want to go with that approach. But it won't be like dramatically smaller.
I mean, the functional purpose is so two cars can pull up and be under cover.
That's right.
It's raining,
Yes.
so there is a functional room.
Sure.
One car.
In
Does
this
it
case, it
have
will be
to
one
be
car.
opaque? Well, yeah, because you're keeping the rain, but.
There's different ways to do it. It just looks out of scale.
Well, the actual roof, yes, you want it to be opaque because those glass ceiling, they just look very
Yeah,
ugly with time.
yeah. I was thinking more of like an open
trellis.
trellis, yes, something like that, but I wasn't thinking about the rain.
That's all I had. Was that piece.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about the site. The majority of the site of the project is parking lot and landscape, so one of the things that we like to see are innovative stormwater management approaches, and so for a project like this, the site's going from 6% impervious to over 50% impervious, and just wondering if those were explored at all at grade or as part of the building.
I mean, obviously, we meet stormwater requirements, so we have a storm tech system, which is underground detention system, and it's shown in the red box here.
No, I'm familiar with that. I was just wondering about green stormwater infrastructure, green infrastructure.
I mean, given the size of the hotel and the number of parking spaces needed, I mean, we haven't done a whole lot with that just because we're kind of hemmed in, and a good bit of the project, property, rather, if you will, is taken up by railroad right-of-way, which we can't touch, obviously. So, and we were talking earlier, you were speaking earlier about trees. There are only a couple left out there. So history going way back before this site was what it is now, it was just an open site. There was a big warehouse there. And it was this property and the one to the south was one parcel with a huge just
No,
warehouse.
I understand. I think our
So-
point is that we're expecting that to be at least considered or explored for
Okay.
projects. So I'm just making a statement because
Okay.
that's something that we say for all these projects, and some
Sure.
projects do it more than others, but
Right.
that is something that we are looking for. But then I do want to talk a little bit about the plantings, because I think that the plant list, I really like a lot of the plants that are on there. But I am concerned that, particularly if you could go to the planting plan, the street buffer plantings.
Here, is this the plan you're referring to? Okay.
Yeah, so those are great plants, but I don't think, in general, I don't think most of those plants will tolerate that condition.
Okay.
They're wetland shade plants, and we're looking at a very sunny, dry, probably not great soils. So we will want that street buffer planting to thrive, and I'm not confident that most of those plantings will survive the first year. So I'd really encourage you to look at that
Okay.
again, because that's an important part of the project. And then related to plant selection is the parking lot. So I couldn't find in the plant schedule what species AB is, but my point is that the parking lot is the majority of the site. It's going to be really hot, and just wondering if we could get some larger canopy trees in that parking lot as opposed to smaller trees. And I didn't know what AB was. It's not listed. That
Okay,
acronym isn't in the planting plan, so just wondering what that is.
I'll look at that. I do not know the answer just standing here. And certainly if we can get a larger maturing tree in those islands and have it live, that would be.
There's
we
lots
can-
of
we can
trees that will
secure-
live in those parking islands. I would suggest that when you talk to the urban forester about the tree protection plan, that maybe you could get their feedback on a large
Can do that.
canopy tree for the
Certainly.
parking lot. I think that's important, not just for the comfort of your guests, but also for just heat. This is an asphalt parking lot.
Sure, we can do that.
And then, in general, so that's some of the plant selection, but I do have some problems with the layout. It looks like we took the required number of plants and then just sort of sprinkled them across the site without like paying attention to things like entrances and groupings, windows, views, parking islands. And I love using this example because when we draw plants in renderings, we draw them how we want to see them. And so when I compare the rendering, if you look at the architectural rendering, they have groupings of similar species and trees in rows that sort of match, and there's some intentionality of that. And this feels random, and would love to see them a little bit more thought behind the layout of the plants, because right now it looks like we have large areas of mulch dotted with shrubs.
It's
and
if I may, it's a plan done by civil engineers, not landscape architects. So, and we can reach out to someone who has a better eye for that, because I'll just be honest, that's not me. But we do have people that we can reach out to. We have met the spirit, if you will, but
Sure.
the intentionality of what you're talking about, and I understand that is, and I'm a little facetious here, but at the same time, we're looking at what the rule is. But if you want to do.
That's why we go
Yeah,
before the
yeah,
design review
yeah, so-
committee. We have rules for architecture, but
Right.
those baseline rules aren't sufficient. And for this,
Right.
that's fine, and it's not difficult to meet the requirement and to be thoughtful about the plant layout and the
Sure.
plant selection, because it is a large part of the project and something that our community will be experiencing more than the interior of a hotel.
Well, we can certainly reach to a landscape architect and ask what better plants from the list would work in the front, as you're talking about, because that's going to be the south and western side, so it's going to get most of the heat. And the same thing with the intentionality of seeing the site. That's not something that, we're looking at it from what are the rules and how do we meet them?
Sure.
And so we can do that, yes.
Yeah, we like to go beyond the basic standard. And then just the sizing of the plants, the shrubs are drawn at like 12 inches wide, and some of the trees even are drawn that size. So it's just representation-wise, it's really difficult. We're looking at sweet bay magnolias, which get, 15 to 20 feet wide, drawn in there at 24 inches wide. So just, it's graphically, it's challenging to even read these plans. So just, we need to be thoughtful about this part of the site and the landscape just as much as we are about the architecture. And then I know Steve and Leo have some comments, but I just want to follow up with one that's not related to planting is the retaining wall on the rear. Did we talk about what the material was for that?
So the retaining wall on the rear, you're talking about
Yeah, that
back
one
here?
there. Yeah.
That is a ready rock wall. It's
Okay.
a ready rock. It's not going to be seen. It's below grade. So it's, unless you go down below the site, which you'd be in a big ravine back there if you did. So it's below grade and it's ready rock. And so
Okay. And then, so it's pretty tall there, and how tall is it on the patio side? Will there be a railing
there'll be a
involved?
fence along there. There's a
Okay.
fence along that. It's about 12 feet in that very corner right there, and then it starts to taper off as you come through the patio all the way down to where it comes to the very end of the parking lot. But there's a fence that goes the wall and then runs all the way down the wall, all the way down to the other end. And we certainly
Okay.
don't want anybody walking and
What
falling
is-
over the top of that wall. So
What are you thinking for the fence
you
material?
have to ask the one. So just a, I don't think chain link. I think probably more decorative metal.
Okay,
But certainly there's a fence there. Yeah.
okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm just going to have a couple of comments to add on to Kate's. And your response on the landscape design makes sense, but it just needs a lot of work. It's very, very, very hodgepodge is kind of the best word to describe it. And the overall suggestion would maybe fewer different types of plants and more massing and the addition of more evergreens too, thinking about what it looks like this time of year. And then also just being really mindful of the light conditions that are here in this parking lot. Just to kind of reiterate the need for shade, I believe the AB label is representing the American Beach and not the RM or whatever, RM.
Yeah, I'm not going to,
So
yeah, I'm not
just,
going to be a
again,
guess.
really careful tree selection. That's a really hard tree to have guaranteed do well. And I know y'all want to have this guaranteed do really well. So maybe a good oak selection, cultivar that get nice and big. And then just briefly, the requests for unique and innovative stormwater measures are not just for improved water quality and perhaps reducing the impact to the stormwater infrastructure, but it's also for aesthetics and demonstrations in a positive way with how sites can be treated for your guests. These can be done really beautifully, and there are a couple of islands in the parking lot that I think would qualify as being a really good opportunity to do that at not a lot of cost, but the larger one that's south of the storm tech system, it
This
could
one?
be developed in a way you have either some portions of flush curve or have some stormwater that goes into that, and then there's an outlet that takes it into the storm tech system. But
Okay.
it's just as much as an aesthetic thing as it is for kind of educational and informative, and I can assure you your guests will appreciate seeing elements like this on your site. And again, just real careful look at plant selections and getting a professional designer to look at that.
Okay.
Oh, one quick question, and this is just, we're just curious about, are there EV parking spaces that are going to be provided? You know about 4? Okay.
All right. There's, let's call for public comment open up for public comment at 1:25. Right, we will close public comment at 1:25. And if there's no other comments, we'll vote.
All right, so the conditions I currently have include addressing a horizontal datum and applying select stone at the corner along that retaining wall plinth. Is that something along those lines? And the with the continuation of the ethos materials on the first floor to that horizontal datum. And then the second condition would be to address the scale of the porte cochere, the pitch of the roof, as well as the extent of the overhang. And then you guys are going to have to help me on the landscaping. Addressing what I had, Kate, Stephen Lee, is the species of the street buffer.
What we might could do is just simply say, have the landscape
Designed by
professionally
landscape
designed.
architect.
Or designer, yeah, landscape designer, just have it professionally designed, and then also explore opportunities for unique and innovative stormwater measures.
All right. Does that capture everybody? Okay. All right. And I'll try it. Chair, I move to recommend approval of the Holiday Inn Express Hotel on Sweeten Creek project as presented based on the site plans, elevations, and materials submitted and the discussions heard during this review. Find that the project meets the intent of the hotel design guidelines subject to the following conditions. One, that the applicant provide a revised design as discussed for the foundation retaining wall, incorporating a horizontal datum, express and continuing the building materials of the facade above to the horizontal datum, and incorporating the stone of the corner at the northwest corner. Two, that the applicant address a revised design reducing the scale of the porte cochere either reducing the pitch of the roof and or reducing the extent of the overhang. And three, that the applicant provide a revised landscaping plan as provided by a landscape designer, addressing the comments regarding species and placement of landscaping, as well as exploring unique and innovative stormwater design elements. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He said designer. Yeah. I caught that too, but I
Okay.
think he's being nice. Thank you.
The next item on
Thank
our
you.
agenda.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. 191 Biltmore Avenue.
Hi, y'all. My name is Jackson Marks, and this is the first time I'm speaking before y'all. This was a Level 1 project that was submitted September 19th of last year. It got its first Level 1 review back in October. Since then, the original planner, Jennifer Blevins, has retired with the city, so I've taken on helping guiding this one along. This is an adaptive reuse of 191 Biltmore Avenue, an existing building that's been in the downtown area, first built back in 1991 before the standards. So a lot of what we're looking at today is what we consider legally non-conforming design standards, where they're improving upon or maintaining the existing non-conformities. Just for the location, just for reference, it's in between Biltmore Avenue, Southside Avenue as well. To the east, it is McCormick Field. To the north is that Greenhead Brewery. The site plan there shows where the key pedestrian streets on in the downtown corridor are. So that's to the north of it, and to the east. I apologize. I realize the rotation is a little bit unusual to how we look at our downtown. It was previously Asheville Gastrological Associations. It's going to be Davis Moore healthcare practice going forward. It is CBD zoning in the downtown design review overlay. It's outside the traditional downtown core and designated as downtown in the future land use code. So the first change is the fenestration along the north exterior facing the Biltmore Avenue. So we have the existing stone wall there on the ground floor and windows there. They are changing it to add some additional brick and some linear windows instead. The linear fenestration is changing from 63% to 64% for the fenestration along there, so that is a net increase. It does not meet the 70 ideal for the key pedestrian corridor, but it is an improvement upon the existing nonconformity. The change from stone veneer to brick veneer is consistent with a lot of the downtown design. It's material that is recommended. I believe they have brought some materials for us to look at later. This is the south exterior facing Southside Avenue. It is not a key pedestrian corridor, so the ideal is 50 feet, 50% fenestration along there. There is a loss of fenestration, but it is actually in an area that is not visible. It's this section here. There is an indent currently there that has a window. It's not visible from the street. They're removing that to add additional, so they're installing new vascular operating rooms, and so they're adding a new room on that area there. It remains 44% fenestration with that. There is, I did not notice this until earlier today, that there is the nonconformity of no fenestration between 20 feet. So between that door window there to the next windows, that goes from approximately 50 feet to 60 feet. I'm gonna have to, because it wasn't visible from the street, I'm gonna have to get confirmation with the supervisor and the zoning if that is an increase in nonconformity. I interpreted that, and the previous planner interpreted that as not an increase in nonconformity. But that was something that I just realized while I was looking over these notes earlier today, that could be interpreted that way. And lastly, we have the west exterior facing the corner. So this is where Southside Avenue kind of diverges toward Burton Avenue, where the greenhead is. So we have both key pedestrian and non-key pedestrian. There's that red dotted line showing where that determination changes. So they're replacing some of that stone column there with a storefront window. So the fenestration is going from 59% to 65% in that key pedestrian corridor area. And they are improving in the non-key pedestrian as well. So they're doing all improvements all around to the in reducing the nonconformity in this section. Lastly, they are doing improvements to the landscaping for the area. They are bringing it up to compliance with the CBD landscape ordinance, adding new street trees, parking lot landscaping, vehicle use landscaping, and addition of bike parking as well to the parking area there. They weren't able to get all of the landscape street trees on the Biltmore Avenue side. They had to get a right-of-way encroachment with NCDOT. We have got reports of them that they weren't able to secure that with NCDOT, so they're going for alternative compliance approval at a later date. That is it for what I have. I am recommending approval, considering that they are improving upon the design nonconformities of the site. Thank you. I will hand it over to you.
Wait,
yes,
so
questions.
this is your first time with us, and Clay usually brings us chocolates, so.
First time speaking before you, I was in Sean's position when I initially joined, so I've seen it. I've done the action minutes for y'all, so I have noted in the past minutes, that no chocolates were given.
Thank you.
It's good.
Thank you.
Did you mention when that building was built?
Initially, 1991 is when the property card says, so it is past the retention schedule for us to keep the original plans. And any questions for me?
I don't think so. You could have the applicant approach. Thank you.
Only working hard today. We can go get some coffee.
Hello, this is my first time in front of the board as well, so I apologize for not bringing snacks. I'll note that for the next time I'm here. Chair Roush, members of the board, we appreciate your time to present our project to you today. Before I start, I'd like to introduce some of the project team and ownership group that I have with me.
Can you tell us your name as well?
I'm sorry. My name's Dave Braun with Civil Design Concepts. A colleague with CDC, Warren Zug. Project architect.
Steve Fralden.
Steve F., as we refer to him. Austin Blazer with Story Program Management, and John Stuggs with the ownership group, Davis Moore Healthcare. As Jackson explained, it's existing property that's being redeveloped for a new medical user. It did trigger level 1 site review through the city, so we do have to bring a few things into compliance, landscaping and some pedestrian routes with that. Landscaping, Radney Street trees, parking lot buffer along the street, and supplementing vehicle use areas with some new landscaping. Pedestrian routes, currently along Biltmore Avenue, there's a small 4 to 5 foot sidewalk. That's being removed, and a new wider sidewalk will be installed along the Biltmore frontage. On Southside Avenue, we have a section with no sidewalk, so new sidewalk will be installed to complete the walk along the Southside Avenue frontage.
Since you're starting with site, maybe we could start with landscaping this time. Do you have any comments?
I'm happy to answer questions.
I have a question on the sidewalk. The sidewall, the proposed sidewall.
On the small site wall along the sidewalk.
Yeah.
On the northeast corner. Yeah, we're pinched in that area between the existing parking lot. We are trimming a little bit of the existing parking lot in that area to accommodate the sidewalk along that frontage. But that wall is a small, it's a 1.5 to 2 feet tall.
Okay. What material?
We haven't selected, but soon assume it will be a modular block wall.
Okay. Might be nice if it could match something else with the building. It is on the corner of those two streets, so.
It won't be seen from the street. It'll be below.
Oh, okay.
So it's holding up the sidewalk
I
at the
see.
street level there.
I just had one comment where it's really great seeing these wide sidewalks go in because it's really needed right here. We're just looking at the northeast corner of the site at the intersection of South Side and Biltmore. The new sidewalk improvements extend up to an existing sidewalk that looks like it's the city of Asheville put this in fairly recently. It looks new and it's an accessible entry. That new concrete work that occurred over 5 years ago, based off of what I'm looking at in the aerials right here, it met the width of that existing sidewalk, which is so narrow, like 4.5, 5 feet. And this is just, and y'all know this, like on ball game days and stuff, this intersection is so busy, and the city improvements have been really great over the last 10 years, but it would be awesome if that 8.5 foot wide sidewalk could continue around and not pinch down where the actual crossing is occurring. So if that's something that y'all could look at, it would be great. Just again, it's the new work is pinching down to meet the existing condition, but your new condition is going to be this nice 8.5 foot wide sidewalk, and the old concrete that's being planned to stay goes back down, and it's just this compression where we need even more space.
Right.
So
Yeah, I've just had some conversations with Chris in the last few days regarding that.
Yeah.
Months ago, when we first talked, I was under the impression he wanted to save that new portion for the crosswalk that was there. Then as he's reviewed the plan and our coordination with the DOT, he has asked for us to continue that wider portion of the sidewalk around that radius.
Okay.
We have some obstructions there, but I think we can still widen it to help that. There's signal poles and pedestals and some utilities in that area, but just based on my recent conversations with him, we do plan on widening that a few feet to get it closer to that
Okay, that's great.
8 to 10 foot range.
Thank
width
you.
there.
That's the only comment I had.
Do you have anything you'd like to tell us about the architecture?
Yeah, I'll pass it off to Steve to talk about fenestrations and things that we've worked through with staff.
Again, I thank the committee for your time today. Again, my name is Steve Frey Aldenhoven. I'm one of the healthcare sector leaders for LS3P. So the project is an adaptive reuse, but it's not a change of use or a change of occupancy. It's still a business occupancy. It falls under the exemption for ambulatory healthcare facility. Some of you may be more familiar than you want to admit to this building. It's been the endoscopy center since its construction. I think we've dated it to about 1987 or so years. So our new client would like to make these modifications, and a lot of our proposed architectural changes are driven by the healthcare planning of the interior. Their need to our desire to kind of change the image from an endoscopy center to a higher level 3 ambulatory care facility, ambulatory surgery center. And also we're addressing some of the conditions of the outside of the building. Some of the stone veneer is starting to come apart and delaminate from the side of the building as well. So the upgrades are really to improve its architectural appearance. And then our window treatment that we're going to explain or proposing.
Can I ask a question about the stone, since you just brought that up? If you're changing it to brick, is all the stone being changed to brick?
No.
Okay.
No, the building has a couple of areas of stone. It has this existing facade, and where can I go to the photographs that you showed? And I brought some if you want to turn this on. So most of the original stone is in this Biltmore Avenue projection side of these higher windows in this area right here. It faces Biltmore Avenue. You can also see there's the addition.
I got it in a way. I apologize. I went for artistic instead of practical. But yes.
Okay, so how do I slide that back? Let's start with that. Can I zoom in?
I don't believe it will let
Okay.
you zoom in. I apologize.
So you see the stone you might be familiar with on that side. The line left of that is the addition from the 1987, I believe. It has no stone all for 3 sides of it. And then the original portion to the right does have a small stone base under the windows. You see those 4 windows on the right side. There's a little, about a 2-foot section of stone base on that side, and then it has a little bit of a stone veneer on the front stair tower, if you will. It's the exposed part of the stair that goes to the 2nd floor. So the medical planning on the inside, can I go back to the plan? Yeah, if you are familiar with the inside of the building, the Biltmore Avenue side was an endoscopy clinic with exam rooms. The South Street side was the procedure rooms for the endoscopy procedures. This renovation is going to require an enlargement to 4 ORs and 15 inpatient or outpatient post-op, pre-op bays. So the whole ground floor now will become the entire facility as opposed to an endoscopy center and a clinic. And what's driving the change to the windows on the Biltmore Avenue side is our need to have a little more privacy to those pre-op and post-op bed bays. So without changing the linear feet of the windows, we're proposing to raise that window sill height, as you can see in that elevation. And those windows will be, of the same language as the existing windows on the left, only bringing the sill height up, keeping the existing lintel and the existing width. That's the area where we're finding a lot of the stone coming off of the facade now. So we're going to also address that, the need to replace that and hopefully give the image of the building a different appeal with a masonry brick product as opposed to a masonry stone product. Again, it's just the veneer.
So on the arched portions, you are changing from glass to opaque material?
Those are, do we have the real image of that?
I don't have those open, but I know where they are.
We'll go back and forth to it.
The picture shows there's glass there, so you're going to take the arched.
As those portions of the upper window, again, yes, would be removed and infilled with with the EPIS material that's surrounding the area. Again, those are high windows. We're bringing the ceiling down in that area, and so they would be of no use for that.
And that clear story, higher roof above that remains?
That is on the second story, and all that remains.
Have you thought about just knocking the building down and starting over?
We really have, there are some great aspects to this building. In a sustainable world, reusing this existing building, giving it an adaptive purpose.
That's not the highest.
I really
and best
think
use for this
that
corner of the building.
we made a good attempt to try to really change a lot of the images for it as well.
Where I
So
was
no.
going was like, if the original arch were windows and you're not going to do windows, maybe go another step and just get rid of the arch.
Well, basically what we've done is infilled those window panels with the same EPIS material the surrounding. We didn't change that banding, if you will, all that existing banding that forms the arch and the band all the way around all four sides of the building. So
Is that real stucco?
I don't believe it's EPIS. I think it is because it's a CMU exterior wall, and I believe it is a early form of real stucco. Actually, a later form. Stucco's been around, as you know, a long time, but it is not a styrofoam EPIS product.
You said you had or someone said there was a sample of the.
Well, when we talk about the masonry, we typically draw the masonry in red. We haven't given the owner the full option. We're not really changing the color scheme of this building. We are going to freshen up the paint on the outside. It'll probably remain a tannish, greenish, however you want to call that color, with a fresh coat. The stone is a darker gray stone, and because we're leaving some of it, I think we're going to find that the brick is more on this side than this side in the final selection as far as color. But we're in design development. We'd like the user group to comment on that. I don't think it's going to be as red as what might appear in our study, but it will be that type of brick roll-lock sill on the top. And the band and the EPIS, I think today are the same color. The sunlight kind of makes them look one a little darker than the other. I don't think we'll be accenting that into a darker color. I think it'll all be a fresh coat of the same color paint. Roof's in good shape. We're keeping that.
I mean, I think I agree with it staying closer to the stone color if you're going to use brick. I do also agree with Michael about the arches. If you're removing the glass, it doesn't seem, I don't really know why you need to keep the arch. Oh, because it's,
The trim sits out so proud from the stucco.
and you can't remove that trim. Just,
Good.
you see the difference.
It's a band past this.
Yeah, it's the,
And totally on a LAS system.
Well, I just want to say that nose under the drive up, I'm so glad to see that change.
Yeah.
Taking like a half arch or whatever was there that was split up and pulled away. And I like that just being the glass stack. Kind of makes more sense. Oh, God.
There's a stair behind that. We're trying to get some sense of the visual of that stair, more light into the building. The user group's really just trying to remove some of the stigma of what this building was before and give it a new image.
You know, a really good way to give it a new image is if you knocked it down.
Knock it down.
And put a new building there.
This gentleman spent a lot of money on that building. The land is probably worth more than the building, but I know our Asheville office, when we told them that this was coming, and we were trying to find the original drawings, they were going, oh, please don't be one of our original drawings, please don't be one of those. But no, it was done by a gentleman you probably all know that's retired now. Cunningham. I forgot his Dennis Cunningham. He's been in practice for a long time. He retired a couple of years.
Too?
Pardon?
He did the addition as well?
We don't know. We can't find any drawings. We talked to the contractor that we got the building permit recorded from, but did y'all see the hand passing?
Just had a quick question with the change in use. Right now, it's mostly just people driving their own cars there. Will there be a need to accommodate larger vehicles or anything with the new medical services?
No, it's still an outpatient center. Family comes, waits with the patient. Medical practice for this is, as you know, you don't want to cross the intake from the discharge after somebody's been through surgery. So we do have a canopy on the back. We didn't talk about that, which is along this area. This is the discharge door that used to be a window. So the pickup will be from that side of the building. So you'll still enter under the protected canopy as you go into the waiting room, and then you'll come out that side of the building.
Okay.
Patient flow.
It is an unglamorous exit to,
Well, you don't want the people coming in to see what the people are going out look like.
we're done with you, be gone.
All right. Well, if there's no further comments,
Thank you.
thank you. We'll open up for public comment at 153 or 154, changed as I was saying. Is there any public comment? We'll close for public comment at 154. And
I'd like to make a motion. I move to recommend approval of the exterior renovation at 191 Biltmore Avenue as presented based on the site plans, elevations, materials submitted, and discussions heard during this review, and find that the project meets the intent of the downtown design guidelines.
Seconded.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion is approved, and there is no further business. The meeting is adjourned at 1:54.
Thank you.